10-time winner on the PGA Tour. As I mentioned, a 2-time major champion, twice representing the United States in Ryder Cup team. This person, this is when I give it away, you know who it is, right? Was the 1991 captain of the United States Ryder Cup team. Yes, I am talking about Dave Stockton. To just tell you a little bit more about his resume, he was a winner 25 times amongst the professional ranks, 10 of those, as I mentioned, on the PGA Tour. The 1970 PGA Championship was his. So, too, was the 1976 PGA Championship. He was a runner-up at the Masters in 1974. He was a runner-up at the U.S. Open in 1978. He had 8 major championship top 10s to his credit. Those Ryder Cup teams, 1971 and 1977. 14 PGA Tour Champions wins. He's a 3-time senior major champion. 599 PGA Tour starts to his credit. 436 PGA Tour Champion starts to his credit for 1,035 career starts, and he had 128 top 5 combined finishes within that. Think about that as a percentage already. That is pretty darn good, and it's always great to have the company of Dave Stockton. Hello, Mr. Stockton. How you feeling, my friends? Good to see you.
I'm doing good, Matt. Great to be with you. Been a while.
It has been a while. And, you know, I was looking again at your resume as I do. It's just kind of insecurity to make sure that you're up to speed on everything. And I noticed, and I say this in 82 years young, that you have reached that age. But I bumped into Dave Jr. at the PGA show. He still told me you were out duck hunting. Have you slowed down at all?
No, trying not to. Just finished my biggest fundraiser of the year in Palm Springs with our Medal of Honor tournament here yesterday. And no, I'll be playing at the Legends tournament, the old guys division, obviously, at Houston. And then with both boys being at Wells Fargo for the final Wells Fargo tournament there at Quail Hollow. So, yeah, we're trying to keep busy. Enjoy it. I don't aim to sit still anytime soon.
That's just fabulous. Now, you heard me mentioning when you were coming on that you're one of the people that your impact on the game has been both so profound and so vast. It's hard for me to define where that impact has had its primary memory made. For example, a multiple-time major champion, a multiple-time knocking on the door in major championships outside of that, a captain of the United States Ryder Cup team that was such a distinctive year in that, and then one of the great putting coaches in the entire world that's been going on for years and years, and I assume you're still actively engaged in the same. So let me ask you the question. When you think about the different chapters in the golfing life of Dave Stockton, what stands out to you the most?
Well, it'll be funny. You haven't mentioned it yet. I think the biggest thing is that I've always enjoyed the Pro-Ams. I take it I get 4 people for 18 holes. I figure I can cut 3 or 4 strokes off their handicap, and I don't think putting is as difficult as most people want to make it. Certainly not that I'd have to write a 300-page book on how to do it. And I've enjoyed, and it's probably cost me the Hall of Fame it has so far, the fact that, you know, I would love to play the one Pro-Am on the regular tour, and then on the senior tour, of course, we played 2 days. And I still think the interaction between the pro and the players and what you can experience, you can tell them. You know, I look at a Kuchar, or I look at a McIlroy, or, you know, Annika Sorenstam on the other side of in the ladies, Ochoa, Morgan Pressel, on down the line, Donna Capone, whoever you want to mention, Arnold, Jack. The experience that people get in getting up close and personal to us. So I've enjoyed it. In the 70s, I would plan my schedule, which hurt me, around the corporate outings that I would do, which would total probably 75 days a year. And I would walk away at the end of those days feeling like I won a tournament. So you're right, I have had some chapters. I've been a player. I know good and well that I was a better instructor. You know, when I came out in 2009, I'd already helped a lot of people, including Annika, well ahead of that. But, I mean, the boys, between David and Ronnie and myself, we had over 200 wins in a very short period of time on all tours. And I felt like the legacy was cemented there, because I know Dad's looking down, and I know he knows that I was a better player a better coach than I was a player. So it's been something that's kept me busy, Matt. But, again, like yesterday, we completed this thing. It got too big for being here at Redlands. In fact, on tour, they came out and it was the tournament here that we had was in Redlands or Riverside, and we always Stater Brothers markets, and it was we either in Victoria or Redlands, and now we got too big, so we were at the Esmeralda in Palm Springs and played the 36 holes there. In one day, they presented a check for the tour to the Stater Brothers charities for $1.2 million net in one day. Yeah, and so yeah, I'm keeping busy, and I know the total this year is probably gonna, after fact, is gonna be almost $1.7 million, and it all stays in our community. So that's kind of it's something to me that I know I've given back to the game, and I don't regret the fact that maybe I didn't win as much as I could have won, but all those days and the time spent with the people, introducing what golf meant to me, it's been a fantastic ride, and hope it continues for a few more years.
You know, what you just said can send me in a million different directions, and I'm going to try to narrow it down from talk about the Hall of Fame to talk about putting, to talk about giving back, and your interaction with people in pro-ams and your ability to coach and all of it. Let me, if you would, start first of all with the putting. And you and I have spoken about this in public forums. We've spoken about this in private forums a million times over the years, and to the point that you usually get a little bit exasperated with me because I'm trying to find the secret to putting, where you usually tell me the secret to putting is to not try. Are you still going to tell me the same thing?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you try, you're going to take more time. You see it every week. I mean, I see it in guys that I used to work with, and the way we've always taught, and you well know it, is I want to teach you so you can teach yourself. I don't want you to have to take lessons all the time. I want you to go out and enjoy the game. And for some reason or other, people tend to, if it's an important putt or something's really important to them, they're going to take more time, and they think trying harder is going to unlock it. And trying harder just locks you up, and that's why the boys and I have called our method the signature approach to putting. And we have you sign your signature. It takes about 3 or 4 seconds. Then we ask you to see the signature you just signed, your own signature, and take 15 to 20 seconds and make it exactly the same. Well, they can't even do the first letter, because as soon as you try, you stiffen up. And I always relate it to other sports, and if somebody that's shooting pool isn't going to step up beside the cue ball and practice stroke for 5 or 6 times to get the feel and step in behind it, but a golfer does, takes these practice strokes he thinks is really important, gets the putter behind the ball, and now that thing dies for most people. There are a few people that putt fast like I do. Just let it go. It's either going to go in or it's not going to go in, and if you try, it isn't going to work.
Is that the reason why you've been promoting for years? Don't take a practice swing, step up, trust your instinct, and go. I did just see a recent report. An expert came out and said, well, if you take a practice swing, you're 95% less likely to make the putt from there. But you've been saying this simple message forever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, some people, there's fast players. I'm fast. Lenny Watkins was fast. There's slower players like Jack that, gets set. Tiger's in the middle somewhere. But I always felt that if you had an opportunity, you would try to go a little bit quicker and let it go. Not a fast stroke or anything, but just your process. If you're throwing a dart at a board, you're looking at the bullseye. The bullseye for a putter is the hole in the green, where the hole's cut. I mean, you look at it, how many things, it's not calculus. It's not that serious. It's not cancer. It's nothing like that. Pick your line and let it go. And if you expect to make it, if you stand behind the ball as you walk into it, and you can see where it's going to fall in the hole, whether it's coming in at 4 o'clock or 7 o'clock, if it's breaking right, whatever. If you see that, you got a good chance of making it. But most people don't even see it. They try to get it over with because they don't feel comfortable putting. And a lot of times it's their routine, or a lot of times it's the putter that doesn't fit them. I mean, there's all various things. And Matt, the one thing that you get to in the end is the fact that our job, my job, and the boys' job as instructors is to look at you and figure out how to make you comfortable. Speed you up, slow you down, more practice strokes, less practice strokes. Maybe Annika is a great example. Annika had to have a practice stroke. And finally, I got her where she'd take the practice strokes behind the ball, looking down the line at the hole, and she took how many of her practice strokes she wanted. But when she walked into it, it was a flowing motion. She let the putter go. And the 2 years prior to us working, she'd won twice. In the 18 months after we worked, she'd won 10. What'd she win? She won like 18 times. I mean, she was unbelievable. All because of a little setup change. So you never know. I mean, you go into all sorts of people. Weiskopf, when he came out and played the Legends Tournament with me and Johnny Miller up in Minnesota, and first time he played, and he was all excited and everything, and he asked me, what did I tell people when I explained putting and tried to teach? I said, well, it's all different, Tom, because we tell her we don't have a set method. And I said, by the way, are you talking about other people? Or are you talking about yourself? And it was comical. He looked at me and he goes, me. And I said, okay, I've wanted to tell you this for 40 years. When you put your second finger of your left hand down, covering all your right hand because you want this left hand to go. In reality, that creates tension, and there's no way you're going to go through. You're just going to stop your left hand, finger down or not. And so I just told him, I just overlapped the one finger so I get feel. There's no tension. And I had him putt first because I didn't want him to watch Johnny's practice. Johnny putts, and his stroke is not the world's greatest. One of the best ball strikers I ever played with, but not necessarily putting. And Weiskopf putted first. He made 11 birdies. And we finished the round, and he said, why didn't you tell me this 40 years ago? And I said, well, why in the heck didn't you help me with my golf swing 40 years ago? and we had a good laugh together because, if somebody asked me something, I want them to play the best they could play. I didn't care who they were, but and many times during a round when I should have been penalized. I say, when we get through, I want to help you with something. Well, within a hole, they're going to say, well, now, what are you going to tell me after the round? And so here I am in the middle of competition telling somebody something that's going to help them or hurt them. But at least for the holes I watch him, I'll know by the end of the round whether it did help, and so will he. So it's been a neat journey. I mean, I've enjoyed the competition immensely. I'm a very competitive person, obviously, but the knack and the way my dad taught me, and I didn't know that Alex Morrison was the one that taught him in the 30s until 27 years after Dad died, and Matt Rudy and I wrote the putting book together in 2010. And when I read this book that was written in 1940, it was still viable in 2010. The long game portion of it, the 120 of 140 pages, wasn't. But the putting was still 95% because nobody's figured it out yet. They figured out the long game as you watch the guys play now, but still you see the difficulty on the putting greens. And it's a lot of what you said. It's all this taking time and trying.
Dave, the time that you played, and I know you mixed it up out there with Sam Snead in your day. It's amazing to me to think that you played at a time when the legends from the 30s, 40s, and 50s were dwindling out in the form of Sam Snead. I know there weren't many, but there's some. Right up to playing with the likes of and against Jack Nicklaus and Tom Watson and the guys that you were calling young guns, of the Lanny Watkins, et cetera. It's amazing to me the width of your career, how much and who you played against, and then those that you battled with in major championships, amongst others.
Well, you're right. I was at the perfect time. I was highly... I didn't grow up expecting to be a pro golfer until I played 3 years at Southern Cal and eventually got my degree in general management and finance and go out on the tour. I mean, I saw Lionel Hebert. I didn't even know he was a PGA champion. I knew the brothers. I'd heard of them and stuff. But to be out there, Byron Nelson gave me unbelievable advice sitting at the Masters one year when I quizzed him on how he won 11 tournaments in a row. What I didn't know is I think he'd entered 23 tournaments that year and won 18 of them in 1945.
Yeah.
Ben Hogan, when I won at his Colonial for my first win on tour, didn't say anything after I broke it. I shot 65, 66 in the first 2 rounds, and he walked right by me and didn't say a thing. And then after I shot 74, because I played with Gardner Dickinson on Saturday, and we were 3 holes behind the entire field. We were on the 16th tee, and nobody else was still playing. Got a weather delay. It was a joke. But he made an effort to walk up to me in the locker room. Afterward, I heard somebody asking where my locker was, and around the corner came Mr. Hogan. I stood up and shook hands with him, and he's in third place, going to play with Weiskopf, who I'm tied with going in the last round. And he said, Dave, I know what happened today out there. I know you had a little distraction with your playing partner. He said, but I want to let you know you can win this tournament, and I want to wish you the best of luck. And I was flabbergasted. And you're right. I've had some run-ins with Snead. He did some weird things with me at Riviera, another one, and it's just. But this is what I think that's what the PGA is about. That what is the legacy that I played for, was to get to meet these guys. When I played with Palmer the first time in 66 at Rancho Park in LA, I'd been on tour 2 years and never met him because I didn't make many cuts and he was playing the bigger tournaments and stuff. But that's the life that Kathy and I look back on, and we feel that we are following the traditions. You mentioned Jack Nicklaus, and I think he has the wife that has inspired more wives on tour than anybody else of our generation. Barbara Nicklaus was the queen. There was no question about it. And when you'd go to a past champions dinner, the PGA, and we'd have a joint cocktail party, and the ladies would go in one room and the champions would go in another, and we'd get together. Barbara, there wasn't a wife in that room that didn't listen to exactly what Barbara Nicklaus said and her thoughts, because, again, they're a dynamic team, and she is no minor part in that team and Jack's success. There's no question about it.
When you were captain of the 1991 United States Ryder Cup team and your famous victory at Kiawah Island, do you think that Ryder Cup changed the course of every Ryder Cup that has followed? Was that the beginning of something new?
Maybe it's the first time it played out, because we hadn't had the Cup back in 6 years. And 4 years prior to that, when Nicklaus got beat on his own golf course in Muirfield, due to his own fault. I mean, he was the one that pursued this thing of, okay, Great Britain and Ireland, we're kind of getting them every time. And when I played in 71 and 77, it was basically a foregone conclusion under J.A. Barron and St. Louis, and then under Dow Finsterwald and Lytham and St. Anne's in 77. And all of a sudden, Jack has this vision, and Jacqueline played a part in it, I'm sure. We'll play Europe. We'll play, Great Britain and Ireland and Europe, put them all together. And all of a sudden, it was an even Steven. And it should have been, if we play here, we should be favored. And if you play over there, and you've seen it in the last two. You saw us win at Whistling Straits under Steve Stricker's leadership. And then we go over there and play in Rome. Phenomenal venue, great job. But it was almost no matter what Zach Johnson did, the Europeans were destined to win. And I would not be betting on the Europeans to succeed at when we come back to Bethpage Black here in 2 years. So it's been a yes. Kiawah was important because Jack loses, and then Raymond ties. Had a hell of a job, but it tied 2 years prior, so we hadn't seen the Cup in 6 years. And yeah, we got it back, and it was very close. Obviously, it would not have been close if we hadn't had the limo wreck, and I would have been able to play Steve Pate the whole time. But you never know. I mean, it's amazing how tight these things are, and I think it changed it. I think one of the ones that really affected it, and I've been a part of 4 Ryder Cups. 2 I played, 1 that I captained, the other that Azinger honored me by picking me as an assistant captain at Valhalla in 2008, which I still think is probably the best captaining job that I've ever seen, because he changed the number of people that you could pick to be on your team, the number of help you could get on the course. He had to have 3 help, and he had this pod system of separating them into 3 or 4-man pods. And it totally exposed Faldo at that time in 2008. So it's progressed. I was very proud to. Well, when I first got the captaincy, I thought I was going to be doing a PGA West in California, only to find out because of financial reasons, and they were going to televise. It's going to be the first wall-to-wall television of a Ryder Cup in America, and they had to have it on the East Coast. You'd have the time zone in Europe be able to be, watching this unfold. So we go to a course that nobody had seen, and it was an unbelievable venue. And Kathy and I were just honored to be picked to do it. It's the highlight of my career. I mean, they raise the flag and you play for it, and I'm very proud of the fact that I've participated in 4 Ryder Cups and I've never been on a losing team. Unfortunately, there are not many Americans that could say that now.
When Lanny was on with us recently, he alluded to a mentality, a kind of good old boys network where players wanted to be with their friends in the locker room instead of perhaps maybe having a mechanism where the best players, hottest players at the moment are playing on the team, regardless of whether you go out to dinner with them or not. Do you think that might be an accurate depiction of making a United States team, regardless of which side of the pond they're playing on, stronger?
I would hope so. There was a quartet of guys, myself included, that every time we saw each other, we talked about the Ryder Cup and what we would do if and when we were captain. And that happened to be Payne Stewart, Lanny Watkins, myself, and Paul Azinger. And a lot of great things came out of the discussions we had. And I profiled my team. I can't speak for the other players. I know Corey Pavin, who followed me, basically came up and, coming up when he was accepted to be the Ryder Cup captain later on in the 2000s, he said to me, well, I'm just going to make a few changes. I said, oh, I know what it was. It was right after Azinger, because I said, Corey, don't do anything till you talk to Paul, because Paul got this completely correct. And Paul did his to Ron Braun. I used Deborah Graham, but I profiled every player. So I knew, and as Paul said to me, he said, I can't talk to Phil Mickelson the way I talk to Anthony Kim. I mean, you've got to make your message fit the person. And that's what, in personalities, guys want to play with their friends, but that's not necessarily the best way, because you lead. We've seen some where you put 2 superstars together and they just don't mesh, and it's a funny way to do it. But I spent a year and a half profiling by players and having a good feel and grasp of who is going to play the best. And some of them didn't expect to play where I put them, but every one of them performed really well.
Dave, 86 men have 2 or more major championships. Only 86. Every opportunity that I have when I talk about the World Golf Hall of Fame, my message is always the same. Put in Dave Stockton, a multiple-time major champion, a successful Ryder Cup captain. What you have given back to the game on the putting side alone is immeasurable. How does it impact you when you think about your career and your life and the fact that you're not in the Golf Hall? And I'm bringing it up because you brought it up earlier in this show. Are there any thoughts relative to that now?
Well, there's hurt involved, because I think I have accomplished enough, just barely. Right on the screen there, you list 10 PGA wins. I actually had 11, at least for 15 years after the second tournament I ever won, the same year in '67 as Colonial. I won with Laurie Hammer, my good friend from the University of Florida. And we won at La Costa. Trevino was in the field. It was an alternate shot event. And for 15 years, the tour counted it. And then all of a sudden, they don't count it. But now they play an alternate shot event in New Orleans, and they're counting it as official again. So I'm confused by that. But I'm on the minimum when you only have that many wins. The majors, yes, I have enough major wins and stuff, and I've done other things. And I would have been much safer if I'd have won 18 or 20. But then I would have given up a lot of the corporate outing and the intermixing with people that I knew I was growing the game by doing. I still played a full schedule. Geez, the first year on the Champions Tour, I played, I think, 30, I don't know exactly, but I'm going to say it was between 32 and 35 events. And you alluded to the fact most of those were top 5 because it's a smaller field, and I got the field back, my game back. But I don't know. It to me, it's like I never could figure out why why Larry Nelson was not a Ryder Cup captain. I mean, under no circumstances, somebody blackballed him, and I feel really bad because he and Gale deserved to have the advantage to lead the American team to victory. I mean, he's the most successful Ryder Cup player I've ever seen. 3 majors to his credit, 2 with the PGA, and the PGA is the one that picked in that time who the captains were. So yeah, there's some regrets. I mean, I think the other people, my family and stuff, it means more to them. It's not going to mean as much when I'm gone and if I'm not in, but there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, I'm happy with what I've done. I'm glad that I can still at 82 be active because I feel like I'm active. I don't feel 82, and we just keep going on.
Yeah, it's incredible the amount of energy that you have. Being that this is the week of the Arnold Palmer Invitational, to wrap up here today, I wonder if because you played against him throughout the heart and your prime of your prowess, why is Arnold Palmer so important to the game of golf?
Because he endorsed the people, he embraced the people. It goes through all of our minds that have won majors. Okay, I'm going to be the next Arnold Palmer, or I'll be the next Jack Nicklaus or something. Well, in Arnold's case, Arnold's the one you wanted to be, and then all of a sudden you'd watch him and how he interacted with the fans, and he could give all this time. And I see a lot of that in the younger guys. Some of the younger guys get it, for sure. But there's so many that are very stoic, and it's like it's an office to them. And it is our office. I mean, that's where we do our work, but you got to enjoy it as you go. And there's nothing Arnold didn't enjoy. Some of the greatest pictures. In fact, the outing that we just completed in Indian Wells, we went to the Arnold Palmer restaurant in La Quinta, and we sat in the Palmer room. All his memorabilia, I had to smile inwardly because he has four trophies along the back wall of this. He's got the British Open, he's got the U.S. Open, he's got the Masters, and he's got the United States Amateur. What he's missing is what I have 2 of, and that was the PGA trophy, especially the one that when I beat him the first time at Southern Hills in Tulsa in '70. And Kathy's 8 months pregnant with Ronnie, and she never left the clubhouse. And I'm out there trying to compete against him with not one person in that gallery rooting for me, I don't think, because if Arnold wins, he wins the Grand Slam. And it's a little bit like Rory coming into Augusta, needing the Grand Slam. He's got to win the Masters. Arnold needed to win the PGA, and he came close in '68 when Boris beat him. And then I was lucky enough to stay ahead of him at Southern Hills. But the feeling you get from him, he was so kind to everybody. He wasn't, when you played with him, he was tough. I tell you one thing, Matt, when you played with him, you sure as hell didn't mark your golf ball. Because Arnold, if he putted out, those people were gone. And you got all this confusion trying to make your 2 or 3 footer or 4 footer, whatever you had left. I always putted out. You know, it was just what you learn when you play with some of these guys. You got to learn what they do so you can handle the pressure that surrounds them.
Amazing. If you could go back in time with everything that's going on in the game right now, if you could go back in time, would you want to be playing golf right now, Dave Stockton, or would you trade it, or would you keep the time period in which you competed?
Oh my God, no. I would not change anything. And even some of the guys that preceded us, they didn't play for any money. I mean, I'm watching now if on some of these elevated events, the guy that finishes 3rd is going to make more money because I made $1.7 million in 27 years of playing on tour, including '74 when I won 3 times, L.A. Quad Cities and the Sammy Davis Hartford, and finished 6th on the money list, and I had $160,000. So wow. When you're looking down the rankings and who you think was good and who you think was bad, I look at a couple of different things that is important to me, is the fact that I got to play at a great time. I won some courses. The list alone to me is so impressive to have won at Riviera and Colonial and Firestone and Congressional, Canterbury, Cherry Hills. I mean, I've played well at a lot of these great golf courses, short, long, and then in between. So Yeah, I have no regrets on that, and I know I played in the right time. This live has thrown a monkey wrench into this whole thing, and now we discover who's going to play for money. Why are they playing? I mean, I don't know how you need that much money, but I would rather hold a PGA trophy and a Masters trophy or a trophy from Colonial than play a 3-day pro-am and think I want to get world ranking points playing against a select field. And so I'm sitting here watching the tour now, and I'm hoping he's a relative, this Jake Knapp, because my mother's maiden name was Knapp, and that's my middle name. And I have no idea if I'm related to this guy, but he's got a first now and a great finish there at Bay Hill this last week, or not Bay Hill, at West Palm. And I'm excited as heck. The amateur that won out here at Palm Springs and the American Express. It's I think I think the golf is in a great spot, with the exception of Greg Norman having this desire for a world tour based on how much money we pay you and not where the titles are. I mean, I don't get it. It's hurt golf. There's no question about it. And the sad part about it, it has really hurt the function of the JC tournaments. Let's say like Greensboro or Hartford or the John Deere. All of them are important, but they're getting priced out of the market because it costs a fortune to become a sponsor of these events. And I just don't like it. I mean, I really don't like it, because that's why I admire Palmer and Nicklaus so much, because they stood up when I was a rabbit in the 68 and 9 there, when we're going away from the PGA of America and starting the PGA Tour. They could have gone, they had the big three. You add Gary Player, and it should have been the big four, adding Billy Casper. They could have gone on their own, and the tour could have ended. And until Palmer passed, there's no way Norman had footprint to get this live started. But now we have a bunch of guys that are working for Saudi Arabia, and I don't get it. I think our charities in America are worth a whole lot more than selling out the way some of these guys have done. I don't blame them. They made a ton of money, but you're not playing for history now.
Dave Stockton, always absolutely full of probing insights and experiences through a absolutely remarkable career. My friend, it's great to catch up with you. I'm glad that you are well and the family is well and that you're full of energy. Doesn't surprise me in that latter point, but thank you nonetheless for all of the time that you've given us today. It's always a pleasure.
It's great, man. I don't want to leave without mentioning one thing. I think, I've had a lot of highlights in my life, but one of the best ones ever was spending the time in the tower with you at Congressional. When I'd just been only working with Rory 5 months, and he had blown the Masters, came into Congressional, and had the putting figured out. And I'm sitting in that tower with you, watching these, we were watching the 10th green and we were watching 18, and talking about various things, and watching Rory only win by 8, and enjoying your insight, which is, I love working with a guy like you or Dave Mard the third. I mean, because the answers you have, you got a historical knowledge of our game, and I know where you come from, and I do. I treasure our time. You can call me anytime if you have questions, and I appreciate taking the time to talk to me this morning.
It was an honor. Thank you very much, Dave. That week, I remember very, very distinctly. We worked together a lot, but that particular week, to be at Congressional where this man won a major championship, and to be looking down on young Rory McIlroy, one of his star pupils, and to have Dave. We were broadcasting the coverage on ESPN at that point, and to have him explain to me what Rory is doing and watch how it manifests in the way that he was moving, it was stunning. It is stunning, and such an honor to always catch up with Mr. Stockton. Thank you very much for everything, Dave, you have done. When we come back, folks, we're going to go down this road of another legend in Arnold Palmer, and we're going to feature an interview that we did with Mr. Palmer that, while we didn't know it at the time, in retrospect, it was done not long before he passed, and we think it was the last long-form interview that he ever conducted. And the insights that he provides during this time, I like to say, when giants roam, a golden age of the game, is absolutely stunning too.